What if the wisest thing we could do was just walk away? Let's imagine for a moment that our first instinct, after another death or another garbage RNG drop from a 30-minute boss fight, was to stand up, turn our backs, and walk away. Not in rage, not in defeat, but in clarity. Of course, it doesn't come easy. There's the anger, the heat in your chest, a bludgeoning sensation of wasted time. Your efforts burned alive while you watch helplessly from your gaming chair. Most of us have been there. We've felt the sting, and we've stayed reticent, stuck, unable to break the recursive effect. Recursion, formally, is the process of a system feeding its own output back into itself. The result of each cycle becomes the fuel for the next. In math and programming, it's elegant, a function that calls itself until it resolves. But in human hands, it rarely resolves. And in gaming, well, gear, grind, gain, repeat. Over and over again, chasing that best in slot pixel trash. Needing just one more plus one more hit, one more maybe, all for that next bigger, better dopamine burst. In games, recursion is the moment when the goal and the process become indistinguishable. You're no longer playing for loot. You're playing because you're inside the loop. Progress becomes its own religion. The grind becomes the altar. Such is the sunk cost fallacy of recursive gaming. Our need to justify the hours, or in some cases decades, we've poured into these endless runs throughout dungeons, bosses, and quests. And let me be absolutely clear. We do it because we like it. Or at least, we think we do. For me, it's a kind of mind-numbing ritual, an anxiety pressure valve. I logged into Diablo, I shift into a dumbass werewolf, and I proceed to tear through hordes of enemies, grabbing loot I don't need, just to feel like I'm progressing. That brief, flickering sense of achievement, even when I know it's synthetic, is enough to keep me hooked. But here's the hard truth. I'm not doing this for joy anymore. I'm doing it for relief. Relief from boredom, uncertainty? Or is it from the overwhelming pressure of modern life? You wake up thinking about builds, rotations, efficiencies, and at some point, the joy of discovery quietly dissolves into the comfort of control. You know the path, the mobs, the drops, and yet you return again and again. That's recursion at work. Not addiction in the shallow sense, but a kind of spiritual autopilot. A repeating function of self, calling itself, until the variables blur into one continuous hum. And that right there, that's where wisdom should step in. No, that is where wisdom must step in. Not as a killjoy or a scolding voice from the past, but as the quiet hand on our shoulder reminding us to breathe. Wisdom isn't about denial, it's about discernment. It helps us recognize when the loop we're caught in is offering peace and when it's silently consuming us. I ask us to pause, reflect, and ask harder questions. Is this still serving me? Am I escaping? Am I growing? In a world increasingly driven by algorithmic feedback loops and instant gratification, wisdom is the rarest stat of all. And without it, what's to stop us from destroying ourselves? Well, objectively speaking, it is ourselves, or more precisely, our inability to set aside ego and truly contemplate the bigger picture. It's the ache in our lower back, our tongues slack-jawed in focus, the burn in our unblinking eyes locked onto the screen, our very souls daring the game to deny us, to challenge our need to create a better, more powerful version of ourselves within this digital ritual. And I'll be honest, it's exhilarating. There's deep satisfaction in a space that doesn't argue back, that rewards your effort with enough blood, time, sweat, tears. It offers a refuge where life's overwhelming trials are compressed into mini-games, battle passes, and pixelated pets that follow us loyally through procedurally generated hellscapes. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Diablo. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I say this as someone who eagerly dives into Diablo every season. Diablo 4, that is. Someone who always, at the very least, logs in for every major content drop in Warframe. Mostly. But somewhere in that cycle, maybe between the 100th dungeon run and the 1000th salvaged item, something shifts. The thrill dulls, not because the loop stopped dropping, but because something deeper starts whispering beneath the grind. Attention, a question, a faint, persistent hum that asks, is this really it? Is this how I prove myself? Better stats? Better person? And that's where wisdom, real wisdom, tries to tap on the glass. It doesn't scream. It doesn't throw your controller across the room, though I do sometimes. And it doesn't delete your character out of spite. It just reminds you that even a good loop can become a trap, that your value doesn't need to be mined from the next patch note or hidden in some yet to drop legendary. It reminds you that stepping away isn't quitting, it's clarity, and that sometimes the most powerful move you can make isn't to press forward for the next boss, but to press pause and actually listen. I'm going to be real with all of you. There was a moment in my grinding days where playing Diablo 2 felt like an extension of my own breath. I wasn't just playing, it was involuntary, reflexive, and instinctive. It was long past nightfall, and the haze of pixelated sanctuary was burning into my retinas as I dove into the pit for what must have been the 100th time that night. Hunting runes for Enigma. This was late 2017. I remember casting my call to arms shouts, weapon swapping, summoning the bear, raising a hurricane, and cyclone armor, then heading out once more, back into the pits. I blasted out the gates and through the decrepit ruins, grinding for another jaw rune. That was it, just one more jaw. I was hunched over my shitty laptop, barely wrangling 14 FPS in a cramped 800 by 600 window. I tossed a volley of tornadoes, and there it was. Dead center of my screen, that bronze-orange beacon of jaw. Now, the high was surreal, a creeping satisfaction that buzzed under the skin, that feeling of mission accomplished. But at what cost? Because when I finally leaned back, basking in my dopamine victory, I realized something. I was alone in this room, alone in a small rental apartment. My wife and son, they were gone, off to her birthday dinner. We were supposed to be at the beach. It was a vacation after all. And I missed it for a goddamn rune. Needless to say, I didn't come out of that situation unscathed, nor should I have. She was furious, and I was left staring at myself in the reflection of that flickering screen, wondering how deep this rabbit hole really went. That moment, sitting alone in that rental unit, the beach wind muffled by concrete walls, the birthday candles were already blown out somewhere else, and it stuck with me. Not because I got the rune, but because I didn't get myself back. That was the real loss. See, wisdom isn't always some lofty, ancient knowledge handed down from monks on a mountaintop. Sometimes it's just a brutal realization in the warm, quiet aftermath of a dopamine crash. A mirror held up when you weren't ready to see what was on the other side. Wisdom in that moment was the slow understanding that just because something feels rewarding doesn't mean it's actually good for you. At least not always, and not forever. And that's the trick, isn't it? The grind, the loop. But it never asks if we're okay. It never tells us when we've gone too far. That part, that's on us. Wisdom is the voice that cuts through the static, the one that says, you can walk away. You're allowed to. And that, maybe more than the loot, maybe more than the climb, more than the best in slot of anything, that's the real win. The one that matters when the game is off, when the room is dark, when you're finally sitting with yourself. But hey, don't take it from me. Decide for yourselves. Let your body tell you when enough is enough. Set a timer if you have to, or better yet, gain some XP in real-world tasks. Do the dishes. Pack your lunch for tomorrow. Trim your nose hairs. Just step away from the loop, briefly. Take your foot off the dopamine gas and live a little bit on the side. Or don't. Honestly, either choice is valid. Whatever. But speaking as an older gamer, someone who's been through more seasons than I care to count, I'll say this. Learning to break free and walk away took time. It wasn't painless. But with this wisdom that came from taking real breaks, even quitting entirely here and there, I unlocked something I didn't expect. Possibility. I had room to do things I thought were out of reach, like this video. We tell ourselves 1,000 little promises to keep the grind alive, chasing the dragon's tail like Ritalin-addled goblins, and the places that chase leads us, that's the surprise we never really notice. The butt sores, the sciatic nerve pain, the posture of a shrimp with commitment issues, and let's not even talk about the diet. I still remember, far too fondly, the pot of boxed macaroni and cheese, a 2-liter Pepsi, a bottle of vodka, and a 24-hour binge into Diablo 2 on a school night in 2002. I had 3 college classes the next day. Skipped every single one of them. Makes for a great Reddit post. And it did. People related. They upvoted and they laughed. But further reflection, yeah, it wasn't just funny. It was a breadcrumb trail of a growing depressive state. A slow detachment from school, from ambition. I flunked out, moved back home, slid into a drinking problem. Was it the game's fault? No. Was it the grind? Still no. But was it the choice to run headfirst into the same wall for hours on end, without ever stepping back, without ever checking in with myself or reality? Yeah, probably. Many great things and plenty of poor things followed, as tends to happen to most of us in our 20s. It's a trying time, and I don't pretend to be some oracle of wistful truths. But when I look back, what I notice most is that I made a life that was harder, much harder than it had to be. I used games as a crutch. I pounded liquor to self-medicate, checked out fully from a world I didn't care much for to begin with. It's easy with age to see through yourself like you were made of glass, and fragile as we may have been, ego still called the shots. It's tough to offer advice to someone stuck in that space. It's not your bottle of blues to uncork after all. These days, I try to carry a come talk to me mindset with my son and his friends. They're about the age I was when I started unraveling, and while I don't push stories on them, I am here, ready to share what I've learned if and when they want to ask. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, learn to step away. A lot more than you think you should. And when someone older or just outside your bubble offers insight, maybe listen, even if it's just for a second. One of my greatest fears for us as a society is that we're becoming increasingly detached from our physical and cognitive problem-solving skills. We lean on tech to provide all the answers, and that reliance makes it harder and harder to recalibrate when things go off course. It's easy to keep playing the game. We're good at it. We've melted hundreds, thousands of hours into these loops, tens of thousands for some of us. But a quick look inward, a little mental clarity check, can give us a glimpse of just how hard it can be to break that wrist and consciously walk away from it. We don't really have to look far. These very same games that pull us in are often the ones whispering reminders back, tethering mindsets, quiet truths, if we're willing to hear them. For me, that voice has always been Deckard Cain. Stay a while and listen. Sorry about that. It's more than a catchphrase, more than nostalgia or meme. It's an inflection point of wisdom. He's not saying grind harder. He's offering a pause, a moment to stop, breathe, and listen, and take in a story that just might change your trajectory. So whether you're deep into WoW raids, Destiny 2 Endgame, GTA roleplay, Minecraft mega builds, Valheim forts, Warframe spreadsheets, RuneScape goals, Pokemon iron runs, speedrunning, modding, asset creation, or even coding your own worlds, The point stands. An immersive, rewarding journey is absolutely possible, but only when it's held in moderation and not at the expense of life happening outside your screen. But someone out there, right now, might need you. They might love you, might quietly be better off just because you showed up in the real world. And just remember, in the end, there's no badge for exhaustion. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is nothing at all. Log off, miss the update, let the noise pass you by, and to remember what it's like when time stretches again, not in hours, but in breath. We don't owe this recursive loop anything, but we owe ourselves a life. We can't always stop the world from spinning, but we can stop walking in circles. We can unplug, disengage, and remember what it's like to choose for ourselves. So before you log back in, check if you're chasing growth or running in circles. In parting then, I think it only appropriate to leave you with a quote from a game, proving there is profound purpose in quality gaming.
We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make